Everybody, thank you for joining us this morning. We're going to give it about 1 more minute for any late joiners, and then we'll go ahead and get started.
And we just stay on here, right? As we are.
All right, we are going to go ahead and get started. We have 2 different presentations for you all this morning. Our first one is with Katie, I'm going to pronounce her last name wrong. She just got married and I'm not used to it yet, Katie Rudd, and she'll be presenting on understanding media trends. And then we will pass it over to Brandon Montgomery from the Fent team, and he's going to walk you all through the Red Wheel deals, which I'm sure you all are aware of, just to give you a little bit more background on it and answer any questions you may have. We do have our chat open, so if you have any questions throughout the webinar, feel free to throw those over in the chat, and we'll answer those as we go through and also at the end of the webinar. So Katie, I will hand it over to you, and you can go ahead and get started.
Perfect. So as Kira said, I was previously known as Katie Berencut. It is now Katie Rude, but very close. You guys probably heard from me before, but if you haven't, I have worked with the ACO dealers for about 3 years now. And before that, I've just had 7 years of experience in media in general. So today we're going to be talking over quite a bit of kind of detailed information, if you will. So a lot of times what we're hearing right now is how can we utilize AI in media strategies? So that's really going to be our biggest focus of what does AI look like in media right now? What are some of those new applications? And then what is kind of our stance and recommendation on that? So I put together some slides here that you can see on the side. For some of those new AI applications, there are AI created images. I did put that is not something that we're currently recommending. As you can see from the screenshot, I put in a prompt of having them curate images of farmers using parts for harvest equipment. And by the look of that equipment, it's very easy to tell that that is not actually what equipment looks like. There is not a, brand that has Fendt and Massey kind of all mixed into one image. And so it's not something that they can particularly put together what our brands actually need. So that is something that is currently not recommended. We're also going to go over in a little bit more detail what this Performance Max is and how that automated optimizations work within the platform. And then a little bit more into what are responsive and dynamic assets. So going into currently understanding what Performance Max is, I have some screenshots there that with one campaign, these are all of the different placements that are available in just that one Performance Max campaign, or PMax as we call it. It auto optimizes all of your different assets and places it across anything that is Google owned. So that's going to be your YouTube, Gmail, your Google Display Network, and then of course your search ads. What it does is takes all of those different assets and it uses AI for your bidding strategy, what your budget optimization should be across all of those different options, along with your audiences and then which creative is being shown. So essentially what it does is it simplifies what your budget allocation is, where typically we say, okay, we need this much for search. We want this much for display. We recommend this much for YouTube. It takes all of that into one budget and optimizes where your audiences are going to be across all of those platforms. One of the things that I always try to caveat are kind of the considerations. When is this campaign type going to be something that we should run? With that, there are budget limitations because you are grabbing all of the ones that, oh, somebody can't hear. Is anybody else unable to hear right now? Okay. Thank you for commenting. I think,
Jennifer, try adjusting the audio on your end. We were having some audio issues right before we got started, so you may need to try leaving and rejoining as well if you adjust your audio issues and it doesn't work.
I'll continue and then hopefully Jennifer can hop back on in here. But because you're using placements across all of these different areas, it does require a larger budget than what you would see in just kind of running search by itself or running display by itself. But if it is one of those things where your plan has all of those different tactics inside of one campaign and you want to test out what does that look like when we're using that automation, we can kind of combine those budgets and help with supplementing it from there. It really works well when it is a single campaign focus. So what you can see on the side from those screenshots is this is specifically the AGCO Harvest Parts campaign. So it has really one cohesive product that we're talking about. It takes all of the different headlines and descriptions and it places it throughout so that there's kind of one focus throughout everything. We also really recommend that this is complementary to your search campaigns. While it does have search placements available, it works really well kind of hand in hand with your search campaigns because your search campaigns are going to be keyword based, which is what we're used to running. Whereas Performance Max takes kind of what are called search themes. So it's not specifically if somebody is searching that keyword that there's the opportunity to show up. It's more so it's going to take kind of that theme. If they're searching for harvest parts, it's an opportunity to show up in different places, and it kind of optimizes both of those campaigns together to know that there's, again, cohesiveness between the two. There is very limited control over what those placements are. So if you're running a Performance Max campaign, you can't necessarily say, well, I really want this to run primarily on YouTube, because it's optimizing based off of where your audiences are and what platforms they're using. So if at one point they're at YouTube and then they're in display, it's going to optimize across all of those different networks rather than in one singular platform. And then we really do recommend that there's very specific goals when running Performance Max. A really good one that we can use is actually your dealership visits. If we connect to your Google My Business pages where it has all of those different locations, we can optimize the campaigns to push that location to show up more frequently so that we can track users who are clicking and going to find directions to your dealership. And then, of course, lead generation. So if there's form fills on your website that we can track once they've filled out the form, it does a really good job optimizing towards that as well. So you've kind of heard me say a lot, optimization. So I wanted to kind of dive into what is optimization and what's the difference between automatic optimizations and manual optimizations. So when you hear me say optimizations or your account manager, anybody, what it's doing is it's actually making changes to your campaign across your placements, your audiences, bidding, creative, any of those different points, really for better performance. For automatic optimizations, this is something that happens within the actual advertising platforms, based off of the different algorithms or their AI tools. So Google, like I said, for Performance Max campaigns, those are all completely automated optimizations. Very much so algorithm driven to what that particular advertising platform has already learned about your audiences. And then it makes those adjustments in real time. So there's nothing that needs to be done. It's just, it learned that, this piece of creative, this headline is running better than your other ones. So it's going to start optimizing to push that creative to be seen more. And it's very data driven. So anything that is coming in as we're seeing users click on more particular headlines or different imagery, if we're seeing specific audiences that we're targeting have better interaction, all of that data gets fed into the campaign so that these adjustments can be made in real time. One of the things that's really big benefits with auto optimization is it's extremely efficient. It's really scalable. It's something that just happens, and we don't have to go in and double check on it. It's going to send us a report to let us know kind of what's been happening. Your optimization speed is going to increase because it is applying it automatically. And then it's consistent throughout your campaigns. It's something that we always know is going to be running on your campaigns and inside of those platforms. So then on the other side of that, we also do manual optimizations. So this is going to be where myself or your media team, whoever that is making decisions based on insights and our experience, and analyzing that data ourselves. So this is very human driven. There's a lot more granular control in this because we can take a look at each of those pieces individually and make those adjustments and watch to see what happens after that optimization has taken place, and then kind of apply them throughout different campaigns. So it really allows for a customized strategy. Big benefits with that is, again, that increased control. If there's a lot of placements that we're seeing a very large number of impressions go through onto the ad, but our click-through rate is low, that's when your marketer will go in and remove those placements, because it's something where it's being shown there frequently, but the people that they're seeing aren't very interested or clicking over to your website. There's a lot of customization within that, especially once we take a look at what that creative is and what is the high performing creatives, so that we can take those and kind of build off of them to replace your lower performing creative. With that, you've got those insights from us firsthand on what those optimizations are. A lot of times we'll talk about that inside of your guys' dashboard reviews, and what are those insights that we're seeing, what are those changes we're making to continuously improve your campaign. And it's extremely adaptable. So I wanted to talk into a little bit more of what are these dynamic social assets. That's another thing that we hear quite often. We're recommending it on plans, but there's a lot of questions that come through as, what does that look like and what does that mean for a dynamic social asset? So with that, really, it's ads that are automatically adjusted based on the content based on the user data and their interpretations. So if you can see on the side, those screenshots, I have a couple different examples of what dynamic social assets look like. One of the things is with that, your ads very much so look the same as they have in any other placements, whether it's just a singular ad that is being launched or a carousel. The difference is we are loading in multiple images and headlines and descriptions so that it's doing that automated personalization, where an image that Kira sees and would be more likely to interact with is not necessarily the exact same image or even headlines that I'm seeing on my end based on my past interactions with different things that are happening on Facebook or Instagram. So there's a lot of dynamic creative optimization that is happening as well when we're taking a look, very similar to kind of as I just talked about in the other optimization slide, is taking a look at what are those lower performing assets, those lower performing images, and replacing those so that they're a little bit more similar to your best performing so that we can continue to see best performance throughout. And then, of course, that's with a real-time data integration as people are being seen or being shown these ads and clicking through, we can take a look at those internal reports and make those judgments from there. This really helps with increased relevance of an ad. If there is a headline that doesn't necessarily resonate with somebody else, there may be a secondary headline within that campaign or that ad area that is going to be shown towards them. It really creates an enhanced user experience so that there's something that's showing up on my timeline that is going to resonate with me. It helps with your ad spend being more efficient because we know that there's going to be different opportunities for other assets to show. So if there's one image that isn't performing well, it's not really tanking the overall performance of your campaign anymore because it's going to optimize to show those other assets instead. And then it really helps with decreasing your creative fatigue. So when you have let's say an offer that's running for a full quarter, previously we would want to kind of update those ads maybe every month and a half, because after a while with just your one image and one headline, the users at the end would start to say, like, I am seeing this same ad over and over, and it would signal us that there was some creative fatigue. But with this dynamic social assets, you can have your campaign launch for that full quarter, and it's going to rotate out those images and assets through all of that different learning to show if I've seen the exact same ad, 3 days in a row, it's going to recognize that, and it's going to start rotating out those assets to see what is something that if I've seen it 3 times and I've not clicked over, what's going to resonate with me more. So very similar to that is where we hear responsive assets, where it's your Google responsive display. And so I wanted to talk a little bit more about what is the difference between your responsive and your static creatives, and what does that look like and mean for your end user. I have examples of screenshots here where one is going to be your responsive and the other is going to be your static creative. And if there was a poll and people could guess how many, which one's responsive, which one's static, that might be pretty clear that the one on your right is that static creative image. It's something that we're a lot more used to seeing. It has been around for a very long time, where it's your pre-designed image that we're just placing that size and resizing it to different available inventory. So really the biggest difference between your responsive and static creatives is the way that it displays and how it fits into available inventory. So with your responsive display ads, which is the one on that left, this is something that we recommend when you are really prioritizing your performance. And it's recommended for a broader reach because it does take any of those assets that you load into the campaign and automatically creates an ad from the different images, headlines that's in that available inventory. So if there was a different ad size than the one displayed, it would still be able to be placed there because it's not a predetermined image size. So then for the static display ads, which is on your right, this is something that we recommend when you need to have really strong brand control. Looking at the difference between the two ads, you can certainly tell that the logo is much more forefront in the ad that was designed for Butler versus the one that is your responsive running on Google. So if it's something where you are targeting competitors and those users that are visiting there, and you want them to be a lot more familiar with your brand, that's where we would want to place those static display ads, because we're reaching audiences where that logo and that brand needs to be first and foremost. This is also recommended for really that higher brand consistency. So anytime that you're looking a lot more in those awareness phases and you're not interacting with audiences that you know have previously interacted with you, we would recommend those static display ads. And then I just wanted to share kind of what are AGCO Direct's average click-through rates, year to date, so January through yesterday. And for responsive, that click-through rate has really increased in the last year, and we're seeing an average across all of our dealers 1.49% click-through rate. And then for those static ads, that has also increased, but not at quite the rate that responsive has. So we're seeing that at a 0.80% click-through rate. So with all of this information that we are considering, I kind of want to talk about what is crafting the ideal media plan look like. So there's kind of 3 different tiers that we look into. There's your budget determination, and then we go and adjust to that dealer's priorities. And then from there, it's kind of a balancing act with your different tactics. So in budget determination, what we're doing is we're taking a look at your PAR, and we are really adjusting your budget for any of these tactics based on what that market size is within your PAR and how much competition and regional demand there is in that area as well. As part of that kind of reviewing competition, we have to really look at what that competitive landscape is. And inside each of these different platforms, we can look at if there needs to be more budget allocated specifically to search, because the campaigns that we're wanting to focus on have a lot more people that are bidding against those exact same keywords, or they're trying to have their combines show up over your combines. So that's where we'd budget a little bit heavier to those particular campaigns, where if you think that your combines campaign isn't as big of a priority as your Massey CUE, but there's more competition in combines, that's where you would end up seeing that your budget doesn't necessarily reflect those priorities right up front. And then we take all that and we do our in-platform estimate. So as I mentioned, inside each of these platforms, we can kind of put in what are we expecting to see of campaigns, what are our focuses, and then we leverage those platform tools such as Keyword Planner to predict what that performance and how to optimize the budget allocation from there. So after we've kind of determined what is the budgets that we need, from there we have to adjust based on what the dealer priorities are. So for instance, if I said that competition in combines is a lot more than in CUE, but you do have a much larger focus in CUE, then that's where we would take into consideration, is that tactic something that we want to run, or is it going to end up taking too much of your budget because there's too much competition and it's not a big focus or priority for you. So with that, we really have to understand what each dealer's KPIs are, and then tailor the media plan to focus on those metrics. So if it's lead generation for CUE, we want to make sure that we're adjusting the plan so that it's reflective of pushing towards those lead generations. If there's actual sale conversions that we can track on your website, that's something that we would adjust to as well. Or if there's just brand awareness because you have a new product that is coming to your dealership, and we just need to make sure that everybody there is aware that you guys now carry full Fenline. This ensures that the media plan, of course, is aligned with your business objectives. We want to make sure that at the end of the day, we are hitting your guys' bottom line and that we are aligned with what your objectives are for the year. And then we also want to take a look at, again, what are those audience funnel stages? So if there's a lot of top of funnel brand awareness that we need to get out, we look at different tactics versus then your middle of the funnel where they're still kind of considering doing a little bit more research, and then the bottom of the funnel where we just know that they're ready to purchase and we have got a great offer that we want in front of those audiences. And then kind of, as I've mentioned throughout the full thing, it's really about balancing those tactics to make sure that your budget is allocated effectively across all of the different media tactics based on what the performance would be and what your goals are. And then it prioritizes tactics that deliver your best ROI and align with those campaign objectives. So overall, we just really want to maximize the media plans so that you guys can see that return on investment. So we also have some new media features that I think are brought up quite often to our account managers. And if there's anything else that you have questions about, certainly bring it up to account managers. They'll bring in a media specialist to kind of talk a little bit more on it. But I wanted to talk a little bit on kind of what our approach is in exploring these new media features, and then talk about what are some of those that we're starting to see emerge quite frequently now. So our approach with AGCO Direct is to really test new features with clients that are willing to evaluate that performance. We don't take a one size fits all, and we're a little bit more cautious when it comes to testing out all of the new features that are enrolled, because there's a lot of learning curves that come with that inside of the platforms. And we want to make sure that at the end of the day, we are helping your campaigns and not hindering them by entering the market too early where it's not really at full steam yet. So a couple of the new media features that I wanted to go over is this programmatic TV advertising. A lot of times you'll hear us talk about it as OTT, CTV. And then this programmatic TV advertising laid on top of that is really a lot more of what you'd hear with that programmatic display. And that's being rolled out to those streaming services as well, where we're able to bid in real time based off of your audiences and what that placement would be for showing in those audiences, rather than in your traditional TV where you are placing your spot within a program that your audience is most likely to be in. This is a lot more machine learning behind it to say that we know this is where your audience is, and it might not be the program that you thought, but it's showing up in those programs because the audience information that we're targeting. There's also a lot of chat about kind of these chatbots and what conversational AI is. So in my screenshot, I've just got an example of what that would look like on the phone. That's going to be when a lot of times you go to a website and the option to chat pops up with these predetermined questions. That's going to be a lot more of your chat bots, where conversational AI plugs in kind of what an actual conversation would be. What are your current offers at the dealership? Do you have any, Massey's on site that I can take a look at? And it will be able to respond where it supposedly should make more sense. A lot of times with that, I always say there is a very large learning curve, and making sure that your conversations are proper and better than talking to a human, because it is real time and responsive. However, I follow a lot of media accounts that show what is the bad side of that. So always caution to make sure that before a rollout happens, that you're prepared for kind of all of those different angles. And then there's AI-driven content creation. So my second screenshot there is from a campaign that we wrote the different headlines and descriptions in there, and the Meta platform recommended that this be a different variation of a primary text for the campaign. So this is what's rolling out on a lot of platforms right now, where it's giving you different text generation information. Our team writes all of our content, and we do provide dealers with all of the different variations of that headline. But this is something that's used quite a bit for teams that are working internal, that they don't have enough time to write every single one of those headlines, every description. But again, with that, there's a lot of caution, because as you can see in the screenshot, depending on how you want your brand's voice to be, using emojis within your ad text and hashtags may not align with your brand. And so there's, again, always just caution on implementing automatically any of those AI assets that are provided to you. So I would always read, proofread, and adjust if that is something that you're implementing yourselves. So as for future trends in media, one of the things that was kind of big news yesterday, but for the media world, not necessarily a big surprise, is Google has officially rolled back on ever being cookieless. They have pushed that back for probably 3 years now. And yesterday they announced that there is no such thing for them as a cookieless future. So that's something that's kind of more breaking news, if you will, is we'll always have those cookies for tracking now, and Google is not rolling that out. So I wanted to make sure that that was said first and foremost, since that was an announcement yesterday. And then some of those other future trends that we're seeing in media is that AI inside of your search results. So you may or may not have seen it, but there is an AI overview that is available now, that if you go into Google and you Google a question based on different blogs and information that's out there, the AI overview is creating what the answer to your question is. With that, it is actually showing up above search ads, which is the first time that any placement has appeared above search ad results. So this is something that we're monitoring quite closely to see what happens with that. Because as I mentioned, as new things roll out, there's always a large learning curve. And with the AI search overview, we can see that there is a lot of misinformation that is being gathered through the AI algorithms and showing up first. So there's kind of a combat against misinformation against a AI learning machine right now. So we always recommend that making sure that you have your own blogs and detailed information for your customers to find on your site readily available, so that they're using you as your information source rather than search engine, where they may or may not get the correct information. And then this auto optimization. So this is something that's always been part of it, but platforms are really leaning into full auto optimization full time. So Performance Max is really what Google is pushing really hard right now. And they want people to be using that so that it really helps the AI algorithms for campaign management and eases the pain for people that are running those. As I kind of mentioned throughout, some expected trends is really enhanced personalization throughout any of those campaigns. So with having dynamic and responsive assets, I can see that going a step further, where more and more people, as they're using the internet, they're wanting it to be a really personalized experience through them. And that's going to translate through media as well. And then even more increased automation. Right now, there's certain aspects that are being automized, but I think there's going to be another step in automizing in your bidding, your budgeting. If there is an ability to track conversions, I could end up seeing that it's automatically going to bid and optimize your campaign towards conversions, whether it's something that is what your KPI of that campaign is or not. And as I mentioned, we just always take that precautionary approach. We like to do controlled rollouts so that as we're implementing these campaigns, we can get them in stable and effective areas before implementing it across the board. We don't want to take a one size fits all, or this is what the platform is telling me is going to work well, because we've seen time and time again throughout the years that sometimes that's not the case for one dealer versus another. And then always have your ongoing monitoring, really take control of that manual optimizations, and do continual assessments of what are the AI tools that are being offered and how is that affecting your guys' performance and relevance to campaigns.
I think we'll go ahead and just skip over questions for at this time and dive into Brandon's presentation. If you guys do have questions, please go ahead and put those in the chat and we will answer those at the end, or as Brandon is talking, Katie can respond through the chat as well. So we'll pass it over to Brandon now and let him talk through Red Wheel Deals.
Thank you, Kara. Katie, great job. I learned a lot. So that was very helpful, especially on some of these AI topics, which is super interesting. This is always evolving. Learned a lot today. Thank you for that very informative session. For those that don't know me, my name is Brandon Montgomery. I'm the brand manager for Fendt in North America. Currently sitting at home. I've been on leave the last couple of weeks with paternity leave as we had a little baby boy. So sorry if there's any noise behind me, but we're getting ramped back up here in the family household as we dive back into things. You probably saw this bulletin that came out. This was early July. I think it's July 1st when this bulletin came out. There's been a few modifications since that bulletin came out as we released it. But my goal today is to take you just shortly through this bulletin, and then we'll jump into some of the websites on redwheeldeal.com where the customers are going to with the QR code on some of the direct mailers, and then also the assets that are on the AGCO Direct portal. And then my major goal I want to walk away today is just really the why do all of this work. And I see some of the chat, why don't we have this with Massey Ferguson? I'll answer that a little bit. I see it in the chat too. We definitely want to bring that up to the team. We talked to the Massey team for sure before we introduced this campaign, so that they were aware of it. This was a management decision to really target this and grow market share, specifically in the Fendt wheel tractors. Of course, this campaign goes over all Fendt tractors, but really targeting the Fendt wheel tractors and that market share growth, because we're off of the target where we want to be. And especially looking at the last half of the year, we need to pick this up. So this is the Red Wheel Deal campaign. I'll touch on that, and then I'll go into the why, and then I'll put a plug in also for some of the things that we're going towards the rest of the fall. This is a 0% for 36-month sales campaign through the end of September. We originally had this set as a leasing campaign only. Since July 1st, we had to change that. So it's not just only a lease, it's a 0% interest. There is a buy down that we have to, cough up to pay for that buy down rate. And that's where we get the budget and fund and alignment to be able to put that program together. This is about, bringing that awareness to your dealership and driving those customers that you may not be doing business with today, especially targeting competitive customers, to come to your dealership location. So it's a perfect time for those customers that you've been, really kind of chasing, really down through that sales funnel, but haven't been able to get them over the finish line. Now is that time, especially limiting their risk with, Gold Star customer care. That's, 3-year, 3,000-hour full machine bumper to bumper warranty. This does not include the 200 series specialty tractor, just a note there in that middle part, but it does offer on all tractors outside of the 200 series. So I know that does affect the West Coast specifically. So I'm sorry for that, but at this time, it's a new product. We did not include that into this campaign. As of right now, it did launch July 1st, and it will go through the end of September 30th. And the assets that will go through are the direct mailer, social media ads, there's a radio script, and then there's some other assets that we'll touch base on into the AGCO Direct portal. This is also jumping a little bit back into the why. This is kind of a test pilot for us. I know Fendt, since I've been in this role for about 1.5 years, we've not done anything like this. We kind of stick to our sandbox of going into that awareness funnel, building the brand, but really we're starting to tiptoe down a little bit into your sandbox. So don't feel like, hey, why are these guys doing this? What we're trying to do is really kind of consolidate some things and say, okay, well, what can we do to drive sales and not just awareness? We really want to hurdle this in, drive business to your dealerships and get those customers to buy, and not just be aware of Fendt. We need them to buy Fendt. So this is really, we're starting into this element. The plug I want to put into place, this is also something that we'll track and measure throughout this campaign too. And we'll talk a lot about at our marketing conference at the Fendt Lodge in October. So if you haven't signed up or, looking for save the date on that Fendt Lodge marketing conference, take your pencil out now. It's October 22nd through the 24th. Keep those dates blocked, and we're going to have that at the Fendt Lodge. And we're going to discuss the results of how this went, because this will drive, if we do something future forward facing outside of wheel tractors, take, for example, Rogators, if we want to have a dedicated program for Rogators, or Ideal Combines, or Momentum Planter, and really step up dedicated sales programs like this. I'm going to drive right into some of the Q&A. Why are we doing this? This is, we're focusing on our competitors. As you know, as we grow the brand, our competition is not giving this up lightly on market share. Deere, Case, New Holland, they all have their claws out and are fighting for the same market share we are too. And they know what we have to offer as a product, and they know how sticky we are on the farm. Once you get a Fendt on the farm, there's going to be more coming. So this has been kind of our spearhead into the farm to grow additional market share on that farm. So we're really driving this. This is a national campaign, including the U.S. and Canada. So it's not just pickpocketing certain areas. We're covering the whole United States and Canada. Why call this? This program was also called Simply Fent. So there was nothing new in terms of the finance offering that we had, but this is not something you go to market with. So what we're doing, we call this Red Wheel Deal because this is something that's farmer facing, and they can start to associate every time we have a sales campaign promotion. It's like, oh, wow, I need to pay attention because there's usually a really good offering inside of here as we go forward throughout the calendar year and into 2025 as well too. We want that trigger in their mind to go that this is something big I want to pay attention to. If you want to do something different than 0% for 36 months, absolutely. The only thing I ask is, take advantage of the creative content that we've already done, but change the verbiage. If you're running a 60-month, for example, and your dealership is buying down that rate even further, and extending it out, by all means, just help us use the same creative content so you're not reinventing the wheel. For example, if you want to offer a special lease campaign, go ahead, just work with your account manager on there. But we're starting with this as kind of your blanket coverage over everything. Will there be any cost to my dealership for this new ad? We have taken responsibility for all the direct mailer costs. So those that have opted out, we're respecting that decision of yours. We're not sending those to your targeted customers, but we are paying for all of that. There's no cost that we're setting up to you. The only thing is if you use those assets on AGCO Direct Portal, they are, co-op available. They all apply just as you normally would. So this is something that we're trying that we really want to make a push, and we want you to join into this. If you want to opt out, and I've seen several emails come through that have done this, go into the marketing.na at agcocorp.com. That way we definitely respect that, but thanks to everybody that is joining in and taking participation into this. How do I know which specific locations or customers are being targeted in my area? Your account manager has that list. And I'll go into a little bit deeper dive onto how we derived on that specific list on the next slide. So I'll hold on that comment. But if you have further questions, like, if you want to cleanse the list further, like, hey, maybe somebody is deceased, or, this customer is somebody we don't want to work with, help us cleanse that list. And then where do I find the creative toolkit? It's on the AGCO Direct Portal and redwheeldeals.com, and I'll take you through that here in a second. The direct mailer, for those that have not opted out, this is customized to the farmer. So where you see in the top, it says, hey, John, your bottom line will never be the same, acres of savings. If the farmer's name is Bill, it changes to Hey, Bill. It's really that attention grabber. So this is personalized to that farm specifically. There is a QR code on the back, and it has the dealership website and name on there, calling action to the website. But if they click on the QR code, it takes them to redwheeldeals.com. I'll show that in a moment if you haven't seen that already, what that customer sees. How did we arrive on this customer list? We used on-track data. It was pulled from UCC filing information, and we targeted specifically competitive owners. There's two parts to this. Competitive owners that have owned John Deere 8Rs or Case Magnums, really in that 200 to 400 horsepower category range as a starting point. And based on UCC information, we can see if they've been kind of on a roll program every 2 to 3 years and they're up for that buying cycle, those are the lists. So just to give you some numbers, over the total US and Canada, that list is about 9,700 farms that were in that category just on those two requirements alone. So those that are opted in, those are the customers that we'll be sending to and targeting within we're targeting a 45-mile radius of your dealership location that have a competitive machine. If they're a current customer, a current Fendt customer, we want to gain a little bit more share of the farm. So we're targeting those that don't have a tractor, but may already have maybe sunflower tillage, or they've got, you know, a Fendt combine or a Momentum planter that don't have a tractor yet. We're targeting a 100-mile radius of that farm or the dealership location, so we can get them that direct mailer to get them bought into the tractor as well too. For Canada, this only includes current customers and not competitive owners due to restrictions that we have in Canada. And the dealers in Canada will receive the bulk mailers from Fendt, and then you'll be in charge of distributing those to your customers. Just due to sensitivity and timing and how that all works, it's a little bit trickier there. And so we want to make sure that the dealers have the bulk mailers. They are not personalized to every farm, so you'll be able to mail those out and get them out in a timely manner. And those that are in Quebec, specifically the QR code, those mailers will be in French, and the QR code for redwheeldeal.com will be live towards the end of this week, and will be a French website, which takes them then to the dealership location. Here's a couple examples of the social media ads. I'll dive into that a little bit here on the next, on the portal side. But this is the example of the bulletin. I promised you I'd take you to redwheeldeal.com. So I'll share my screen here. Share. We seeing my screen? Acres of savings. Thumbs up.
Oh, it just popped up. Oh, then no.
Okay.
There we go. We're good.
Okay. So if I'm a customer, you're opted in, and I click on the QR code on the back of that direct mailer, this is what it pops up. Okay. If it's you're in Quebec and it's in French, this would all be in French, specifically for them. But it gives them a little bit deeper dive, you know, about the interest, 0% interest plus the Gold Star customer care. And then it goes into, you know, if somebody's checking this out on Saturday or Sunday or during the evening hours and you guys are not available, they can also get information here to share. And that's where Lead Anywhere will help us out, bridge the gap and get those leads captured. So that way we can drive those leads to your dealership. This dedicated website also helps us track and measure how many people are going to the site specifically. So if they see and they go in to the dealership nearest to them, they can check the map and say, for example, I'm in Michigan. Okay, I've got a dealership here. Click on the bubble, Farm Depot in Michigan, and it gives the phone number for that dealership to call. They can also get an SMS, text, phone, or email. So it's a way to help drive that business and a call to action. The bottom part, there's nothing interactive here. It just basically gives them some exclusive features that we offer on the Fendt tractors, like the Vario Drive, Fendt ID, low engine speed, the cab suspension, the Fendt One technology, Vario Grip, and Gold Star customer care. So gives them a little bit of information, and then really the call to action is to drive that business to your dealership. I'm going to go over to the AGCO Direct portal. This will be the last point here for me today. When you go into the portal, there is, you know, the whole goods marketing page here. Go into Fendt, and hopefully there's no lag as I'm clicking through this. But you can see all of the assets that we have here specifically. When it comes to these assets, they're all basically right here. So here you've got some banners, pull-up banners that you can add to your cart and put your dealership name on. These are all co-op eligible. These are counter mats that you can buy for the parts department to help drive that awareness. There's radio scripts in here too. Please take advantage of that. I think these are great, great way to help push out in the local market specifically. And then these are animated social copies that will go, for example, I'm going to pull up Facebook. you can see my screen here. Here's an example of what we've done on Facebook, social media, here on how it's an animated wheel turning, and then it flashes between, 0% interest, acres of savings, and grabs that attention to their mind. So all of the assets are here on the Fent site. All the toolkits are available. You can then download these and adjust them if you want to tailor those specifically for farms in your area, your PAR. So I'm just kind of scrolling through these. So hopefully everybody's taken time to look through these and see, okay, wow, there's a lot here. Take advantage of it and definitely help us drive the sales to your dealership so we can grow market share. I will pause there. I think we accomplished what I wanted to go through, which is the bulletin, a little bit about the content that we have delivered here so far, why we're doing this, and then the plug for the conference coming up in October where we can meet everybody face to face. I really want to see everybody there. And we've got, of course, our partners with Flint, Kira, Katie, everybody coming in as well to really give us a further education on what we're doing. And you'll notice, last thing, I'll shut up here. You'll see these ads specifically is formatted for what we call Grow Bold 2.0. And we'll talk about that specifically in October, how our pictures, we're trying to make them look bigger than they are, really pop out, stand out well. So we're getting new assets when it comes to creative. And so like what Katie said at the very beginning, don't use AI images for marketing. We're uploading all of the images as we get them into here. So you see the latest images that we've got. We're a little bit short on combines, so we're tackling that in the next couple months. And then some of the new products that are coming up towards Farm Progress to be launched. So that said, I will be quiet now and we can start into the Q&A. I see a few questions. I answered the one on Canada, I believe. Let me know if there's any other questions there on that one, Camille. And then the Fent Lodge in October, we did send the save the date out, Vanessa. So if you haven't seen that, there will be a CVent registration coming out very shortly, probably in the next few weeks. So as of right now is only the save the date and then talking about what we're going to be doing. But this will be Fent branded only. We are going to invite our Massey Ferguson partners over with us too, just so we're all lockstep and key with each other on what each others are doing. But this will be, Fent branded specifically at the lodge. And we're going to talk a lot about why Fent, and we're going to talk about what we're doing with new Grow Bold 2.0 assets. And we're talking about how we're measuring success like this campaign here. We got some great guest speakers coming in, and then there will be a chance to plan your time with Flint as well as you start to make plans for 2025. So it's a perfect time to really say, okay, hit the reset button. Where am I at in my dealership? How's my marketing plan going? Let's meet with Flint as well too, and get a plan for 2025 to see, okay, now I kind of have all my ducks in a row. I'm ready, set to go for my budgeting process for the next year.
Awesome. Thank you, Brandon. Lots of good content for all the dealers today. And if you guys do need help utilizing any of those assets that you see on the AGCO Direct portal, if you want help customizing anything, feel free to reach out to your AGCO Direct rep, AGCO Direct account manager, and we can definitely help you guys out with getting any of those assets customized. I know some of you already have media plans with us, so we can definitely transition into utilizing those assets for any Fent plans that you already have running out there. If there are any other questions, feel free to throw those in the chat. I know we are at time here, so I don't want to go over too much, but if you do have other questions afterwards, reach out to us here at AGCO Direct, reach out to the Fent team with any questions you may have, or your AGCO account manager, and we can help with those as well. You will see there are a few handouts available for you as well, so go ahead and download those and take advantage of those as well. Those are there for your benefit. So thank you everybody for joining today. We will see you all again in August. Have a great day. Oh, go ahead, Brandon.
I put the bulletin in for the marketing conference. It was a bulletin. You may have missed it on the marketing conference and the Luke Bryan farm tour schedule. So I see everybody's kind of going there and clicking now and downloading. So that's great. So that's in the chat part.
Perfect. Thank you for
Thank
adding
you for
those
the time.
in.
All right. Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.